ポケモンゲットだぜ。
Hey guys, on April 22nd, Pokemon for the Nintendo DS is finally coming out. You got it in two flavors, Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl. It's the first time the series has really hit the Nintendo DS. It's been on the Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy Color in the past. It's the game that everybody wants. One of the coolest features of the game is the ability to play it online in battle and trade. And I'm up here in San Francisco. Bozon's down there in LA, and we thought we'd do a one-on-one matchup. You there, Bozon?
Heck yeah, man. I'm ready to roll with this thing.
Let's do a one-on-one battle. You ready to go?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Let's go. All right, the coolest part about this game is the ability to, play on the internet. But to really take advantage of that ability, you have to play the single player. And what have you noticed in your hours and hours of playing this game? Have you noticed compared to the Game Boy Advance version?
Well, compared to the Game Boy Advance version, man, it's pretty much the same. The graphics have a little bit of a bump. There's some like 3D perspective stuff happening, but pretty much you got the same look and pretty much the same feel as well. Actually, the only big thing is touch, which I know you've been using a ton of it, right? I'm kind of a button guy myself.
I agree. They kept the look as modest as possible. It's kind of a shame because the reason why the Game Boy Color looked the way it is because it was all about limitations. The movement from the Game Boy Color to the Game Boy Advance to the Nintendo DS, it's kind of been, they kind of kept it modest, and there's really not a whole lot of 3D elements going on. I guess it'll appeal to the people that have played the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color, but I kind of expected a little bit more in the visual area. Yeah.
Fortunately, though, on the opposite side. They haven't changed a ton of gameplay, but they've actually deepened a ton of the gameplay. So there's like over 400 Pokemon. There's over 150 new guys added in with a bunch of old guys that some of the rare ones are a little bit easier to find. And you can still bring everybody from your GBA cartridges over onto your DS version. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but the problem with the part about connecting the GBA to the Nintendo DS is you have to finish the game to actually bring your Pokemon in. So if you actually did play any of the Game Boy Advance versions, you need to play through at least 40 hours before you can have that ability.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. I caught a Magikarp, and I like to get a Gyarados, and I've got one on Ruby already, but it doesn't help me any since I've got to beat the game first. So I just decided to re-raise one. I'll be battling with it today, and it's already level 20, but it is kind of annoying to retrain guys you're going to be bringing over later.
So for the Nintendo DS version, there's a whole new storyline with a whole new team. There's Team Galactic now, who's doing something evil in the whole game world, but it's pretty much the same, level progression as the Game Boy Advance version. You agree?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much Team Rocket still, and as long as as far as the same lines, like you get the old rod, you get the bicycle, you pretty much get them from guys that look exactly how they looked before. But I am noticing that for whatever reason, it's a little easier to level up younger Pokemon. Like they do a lot of things, like the experience share is back. You can put two people in the little Pokemon daycare. So that seems a little bit easier, but yeah, as far as like adding to what was originally there, it's still pretty much the same. You got the same items, the same abilities, and a ton of new technical machines that they've added into the game. But the core is still pretty much the same.
Obviously, the idea of the game is to level up Pokemon, so, your complaints about the game is pretty much part of the gameplay, where, I want to get in and start leveling up my Pokemon. I want to have the ability to do that as quickly as possible. Early in the game, it's really, it takes a long time to do that, but once you get further into the game, you can do it a lot easier. And that becomes important when you finish the game and you don't have much to do other than level up Pokemon, so, I want to be able to do that.
One thing I do wish we had a little bit more of, though, in the single-player version is a little bit more variety, at least in the opening hours, of what Pokemon you're seeing. Kind of like in the Ruby and Sapphire when you kept seeing Zigzagoon. This time you're seeing a ton of Geodude and a ton of Zubat. And it is kind of annoying to see the same guys, but, there are more than 400 in there, so they're going to keep adding species in, the day and night system as the game progresses. From where I'm at right now, though, a lot of the same guys over and over again, so kind of had to deal with that.
Yeah, the ability, there are a lot of DS. You can't ignore the fact that there is that system clock feature where, when you're playing at night, it will be night in the game. Same thing during the day. There's also the touchscreen functionality where, you're controlling your Pokemon, touching, when you're in battle, you're actually, touching the attacks that you want to do. And that's, that streamlines everything. That makes everything a lot quicker to perform. You don't have to cycle through the whole menu system with the D-pad and button anymore. It's actually, you see it on the screen, you tap it, and you're doing it.
Right. And on top of that, you've got all the multiplayer, which obviously we're playing right now. There's a ton of wireless stuff to it. You can link up with any friend. You've got worldwide stuff, though, has to wait for Pokemon Battle Revolution. That lets you go with non-friend players. But aside from that, local wireless multiplayer is great. There's some eight-person modes and a ton of mini games and stuff. But the online battle is great. I mean, we're having a conversation while battling on the internet with Pokemon, which this is the first time I've been able to do it, and it's fun. It's really cool.
That is definitely the selling point of the game, is the ability to hook up with a friend and play this online. Now, unfortunately, you need to have friend codes to do it, and you can't. It's one of the first Nintendo games where you have to have a friend code. You cannot play this randomly with people across the world. But then again, this is like one of the first games you can actually chat online in real time during gameplay, and it actually sounds pretty good. Why don't we listen to what the sound sample looks like?
So check it out. This is voice over IP on Pokemon. What do you think, Bozon? I think it's pretty good, man. It's good enough to be its own standalone IP. I mean, even if you don't want to play Pokemon, it's good enough as a long-range telephone. Yeah, it's not the first time the DS has had this voice over IP. We had it in Metroid Prime Hunters, but this is the first time you can actually chat right outside of just nothing. You can just go into a chat room. Right. Yeah, you can actually bring up your friends list. You can chat with anybody you want, and then it actually carries over into the game. So that's pretty sweet.
So yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it sounds great. I mean, I would actually use this thing just as voice over IP. I think it sounds great.
So what do you think the big deal about Pokemon is? Why do you think people are, clamoring for the RPG experience?
I think, it's the amount of depth that they've got in the, amount of Pokemon you can get, but also something that's really just being opened up right now is the fact that you can go on, you can trade with people. And Pokemon was always kind of like this community thing where you'd get guys and then you'd trade them away for other guys. And you can always see who originally started training the characters. And online, that's just amplified because you can go on, you can find friends, on our message boards or wherever you've got friends, and, send guys and trade them that way. So, I mean, half of it's battle and the other half is kind of this community element that the DS versions have definitely made a bigger part of the game. So that's really cool. And that's personally the reason I'm so addicted to it.
Yeah, I do agree that the gameplay is totally addictive, and the DS game, even though it's a minimalist upgrade from the past GBA games, with DS upgrades, of course, it's still it's a fantastic RPG experience. It's also the definitive version. I mean, if you have the GBA version and you want to use those Pokemon when you can connect it to the Wii, you're only going to be able to do it on the DS because of the wireless feature. So, it's kind of Nintendo screw you to the, it's like you're going to have to buy it regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll do great, and I love the connectivity that they've got from DS to Wii. So, yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on Pokemon Battle Revolution, but, until then, this online battle stuff is great.
All right, guys, that was our little review of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl on the Nintendo DS. Comes out on April 22nd, and we'll see you online.